Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, inside the park. It's already 2 seconds, and I can't even talk.
Hot start. Here we go.
Can we start over again? No, we're live. Along with Ryan Thies, I'm Barry Nelson, the guy that can talk. Welcome inside the park for another edition of what is going on in Major League Baseball. Ryan, I would expect you not to be able to talk because you're going through finals right now.
Just finished up a 25-page research paper about 30 minutes ago, so we are fresh rolling with the fried brain.
Well, and that's okay because we got a rundown in front of us. We know what we're going to talk about. Yeah. We don't have to really worry about going off the cuff too much, but we have a lot to get to. Scott Wisniewski is going to join us, and he's going to talk Major League Baseball. We're going to give out our quarterly season awards. The season is nearly a quarter of the way over. It's about, we got a couple games left before we hit the 40 mark, but we figured this would be as good a time as any to give out the quarterly awards. And we're going to play Fast Five with him. We also have Fair or Foul coming up, but first we want to do our stadium tour, and we're going to start off with last night. Derek Jeter, number gets retired in Yankee Stadium. He is one of the only 15 people that have got their number retired.
Every single digit is retired by the Yankees,
and
now.
Even number 8 is retired twice. Mm-hmm. So we want to go and we want to see, Derek Jeter. He had a lot of people. Show up last night. A lot of good things to say. My question to you is Derek Jeter going to be the first unanimous Hall of Fame choice? Now we haven't had one yet. Ken Griffey Jr. came close to last year, actually 99.7%, but some doofus left him off the ballot and didn't vote for him. So why don't you think he's going to be the first unanimous?
He's not even the best shortstop to play in his era, I think. I really think Derek Jeter is the definition of right place at the right time. He was called Mr. November because of a 318-foot fly ball that just happened to go out of the park at Yankee
right
Stadium.
After midnight.
Would have been right after midnight into November. It would have been a routine fly ball any other park. The flip play that he's famous for against the A's in 2000, he was supposed to be in that spot. People say, what is he doing there? He was supposed to be there, and he was late getting there. That's why he was in a full-out sprint to get there. And he was lucky because the right fielder overthrew his cutoff man. If he hits his cutoff man there, the flip doesn't happen. Giambi might be safe. If he slides, he might be safe. Right place at the right time.
I think if Giambi makes a hook slide, he's going to be safe anyway. That was just dumb on Giambi's part.
And his last game at Yankee Stadium with the walk-off hit and the most meaningless game in Yankee history in that decade. And the reason why it was meaningless is because he was sitting in the 2-hole all season with a slugging percentage of just over 300. So, I think he's very, very overrated.
Oh, wow. He's very overrated.
Good guy. He's good for the city.
So he will be in the Hall of Fame, though?
I think so.
You
just
think
barely. So? I honestly, it might be close.
You think he's going to be...
Because those baseball writers know his stats.
Right, but it's not going to be like he's going up against Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds and he's going to have this stigma about him.
If it was a fan vote, he's unanimous. But the fans don't vote for the Hall of Fame. It's the baseball writers who actually know a little bit about baseball.
Well, if you have any inkling or any comments...
if you guys disagree with me, I'm ready.
Yeah. Feel free to comment on Facebook. Yeah. We'd be more. Ryan's fired up today. He's kind of like Kleinschmidt was last week. Fired up today. And
I just think Derek Jeter's not what people say he is.
I have a friend who, when I was working with him, out in Los Angeles, he would wear his Derek Jeter jersey religiously, and I always made fun of him for it because I didn't think Derek Jeter. I'd call him Jeter because I didn't think he was that. I didn't think he was that good. But he just
happened to be on some good teams.
He did, and
right place at the right time.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Well, and some people could say that for Tom Brady too. And Tom Brady even said that for Tom Brady today, but that's something we'll let Pick 6 get into. But he even said he didn't feel like the greatest. It was a matter of the system. So let's see.
We can talk more about that.
We'll talk more about that. Let's talk about something a little more graphic. Chris Iannetta this weekend, oh my goodness, he got hit right in the face. We got David, he's on top of this one. We're going to take a look at the video, and if you are a little squeamish, you might want to turn away. We're going to show you, first of all, the video, and then we're going to show you a still shot. But if we could go ahead and roll that. This is Chris Iannetta up to bat on Saturday night. Ooh. turns right into it.
Yep.
And Chris Iannetta, unfortunately for him, didn't.
Unfortunately and fortunately at the same time.
But I mean, if you take a look at what, and if you take a look, we'll throw the still shot up there for you too. He had several stitches to his upper lip, plus a couple of fractured teeth. And here's the pick. I mean, it's just unbelievable that a camera actually caught it, at this moment, right as he got hit in the face. Luckily, he had nothing more than a few stitches in his upper lip, plus a couple of fractured teeth, a broken nose. But man, what is that? That's a nasty injury. And I want to ask you, what is the nastiest injury you've ever seen in sports?
In person or on TV?
Well, you've seen both. Well, let's do on TV first.
I was thinking more on TV.
Okay.
I think the Kevin Ware injury in 2013 Final Four. David doesn't like it. Any broken shin that just looks like a toothpick is just, I can't deal with that.
I would have to say I was watching this, and yes, I'm old enough to watch the Joe Theismann injury with Lawrence Taylor and actually see that. And they'll replay that, and every time they replay that, I will just turn away because I cannot see that. And I know that wrestling isn't really considered a sport, but I know when I was watching Monday Night Raw or whatever it was, WCW Monday Night Show, and one of the wrestlers came off the top rope and just kind of snapped his leg in half. It was just...
Anything that just looks like a bone just snaps with ease. Just does not make me feel good.
It wasn't that great, but hopefully Chris Iannetta will make a good comeback. Will make a quick recovery, and he'll get back in. I can guarantee you he will wear one of those face plates on his helmet from now on,
like Keon Broxton,
does, and it's really
he got hit. 2 weeks into the season, he got hit in that face guard.
Yeah.
And he almost didn't wear it that game, too. He thought it was going to be a waste. He thought, why am I even wearing this? Like, a pitch hasn't come close. Thought, maybe I'll just hold out.
Yeah,
and
thought
then,
better of it.
He got hit right in the pad.
Well, hopefully Chris Iannetta will come back from that. Also this weekend, Bryce Harper signing an extension, a one-year extension worth $21.65 million. That
for
is
1 year.
For 1 year. That is the tail end of his already extended contract through 2017. So this is 2018. He gets an extra $1 million if he's the MVP. He gets $500,000 for second, $250,000 for third, and $150,000 for fifth. All these bonuses, he gets $100,000 for each year that he goes to the All-Star game. Each year he's a Gold Glover. Each year he's a Silver Slugger. I mean, this is just packed with guarantees, but a base salary too. And the question is, one, is this a good thing for the Washington Nationals? Two, how close does this put him to that $400 million mark that he's been talking about for the last year and a half?
A lot closer, because contracts get bigger every year, and him delaying it by another year is going to open up the opportunity for someone else to get a bigger contract that isn't as good as Bryce Harper, and he's going to use that as leverage to get to that $400 million mark. And I for sure think he is going to reach that mark with ease. If you could say earning a $400 million contract is easy, Bryce Harper could do that.
Oh, well,
it's not bad for the Nationals either.
No,
you get MVP.
Well, and he's only 25 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to play for at least, I would say, another 10 years. And he's going to be smack dab in the prime of his career come 2018, 2019, 2020. It'll be interesting to see how much Washington is willing to shell out. I just don't know if they're going to be willing to shell out that much money, but I know who will. The
New York Yankees.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
And
imagine him and Aaron Judge on the same team.
Oh, my God.
In that ballpark.
Oh, my God. And that's just a bandbox for right-handed hitters, or for left-handed hitters.
Like Bryce Harper.
But Aaron Judge is making that place look small, too, and he's a right-handed hitter. But Bryce Harper, and once he signed that deal, what does he do? He probably goes and hits a walk-off home run to win a game. Yeah. The Mets, they're in trouble again. Oh, man, how much worse can it get for the Mets? Juris Familia underwent surgery on Friday to repair a arterial clot in his right shoulder. Matt Harvey comes back on Friday. He gets banged around by the Brewers. They get swept by the Brewers. Terry Collins is just absolutely furious at the result of what happened this weekend, especially when they had a 7-1 lead yesterday. And Brewers come back and win it 11-9 in just dramatic fashion. And we'll show you some of that later on. But how much worse can it get for the Mets right now?
I don't want to say it can't, because I thought it couldn't get any worse than last week. But then
we talked about it last week. We were like, oh, it can't get much worse.
How bad can it get? And it can get worse. Just can't holding on the leads. I saw a tweet from a Mets fan, Frank Fleming. He is the most pessimistic person I've ever seen on the internet. When the Mets are winning, you'll never see him tweet, but once they start losing, he tweets a lot. But he says most teams refuse to lose, but the 2017 Mets refuse to win, is how he described his team.
Baxter saying that the Mets suck. I tend to agree. I mean, there's only one team that...
This is a great time for them to play D-backs, starting for a series here tonight. So I'm excited for that.
D-backs. Now watch, they'll come out and they'll win 4 straight. Yeah, but the Mets, I mean, you look at the National League East, and there is only one team that is above 500, and that is the Washington Nationals. The Washington Nationals are 11 games above 500. The Mets are 4 games under in second place, 7.5 games behind. So it's really, we talked about it last week about how wide the margin is getting, and it's getting pretty bad. We have some sad news if you hadn't heard already. Yesterday, MLB umpire Steve Palermo passed away at the age of...
Ex-MLB umpire.
Ex-MLB umpire, yeah.
He hasn't umpired since 1990. Great story.
Yeah,
that he has. You know the story? Were you going to get into that?
Well, yeah, I was going to get into it where he came in, I believe it was 1975. It was in the minor leagues, and he only spent like 4 or 5 years in the minors, and he was vaulted to the major leagues and got to be one of the most respected guys, even at a young age. I know there were people like Terry Francona and Ned Yost and other people saying what a talent he was. And he did the 1983 All-Star Game, and
did the World Series.
Did the World Series too, and just had a great career. Then all of a sudden, 1991 comes around. He's in a restaurant in Dallas. 2 waiters walk out, and they're getting mugged, and he goes out to help them and gets shot in the back, and is told he'll never walk again. He gets paralyzed from the waist down. But what does he do about a year later?
Throws out the first pitch of the World Series.
And he's walking with a cane. So what an inspirational job he did. Unfortunately, he contracted cancer within the last few years and yesterday passed away at the age of 67. But what an inspiration to a lot of these people. And if you saw the picture of him with all the umpires, I mean, just an all-around good guy, too, from what everybody's saying.
Yeah, and he loved the game, too. After that happened, he still worked as an umpiring supervisor for the league. He was based out of Kansas City, most of it, and that's where I got this whole story from. Was a great article by the Kansas City Star describing how he just would go to games and hang out in the press box with all the press people because he just loved being there and would see what the umpires are doing, give Ned Yost tips on how the umpires would do things and everything, and just all around. Because he couldn't do it, that didn't stop him. He wanted to still help out all the people around him.
Well, and from what Ned Yost said when he was playing backup catcher for the Brewers here in town, he said that there are a lot of umpires that aren't really engaging, but Steve was always engaging and always would say, if you had a question, he wouldn't be condescending or anything to you. He would really talk to you about the pitch and really be there for you and really be able to explain it to you. So, unfortunately, Major League Baseball has lost a good one in Steve Palermo. Speaking of Major League Baseball losing a good one, Aroldis Chapman headed to the DL. He is going there with a inflammation in his rotator cuff now. He got placed on the 10-day DL, but from the New York Daily News, all for what they're saying is he may be out a month with that inflammation.
Yeah, just a precautionary thing. I mean, rotator cuff is a big part of throwing. I don't know if you guys know the mechanics of throwing, but it's pretty important.
I think anything in the shoulder,
the ball.
Anything in the shoulder.
I mean, the way the Yankees are now, I think they're
okay.
I think they're okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not a good thing that they're putting Chapman to the DL and he could be out a month.
Right.
But I mean, they're in a decent position if this were to happen for it to happen now.
And they get a chance to see, other people step up. They always say, if somebody gets injured, next person steps up. So we'll see who steps up for the New York Yankees as Aroldis Chapman heads to the DL. We were talking about it earlier. We talk about it now. You have up close and personal relationship and really love to talk about this because you're part of it, the Milwaukee Brewers. You work on the grounds crew at Miller Park. You were able to see the last 6 games three against the Red Sox, 3 against the Mets. They won 5 out of 6. They're 4 games above 500 for the first time since 2014. Since the end of 2014.
Yeah, September.
They're outscoring their opponents 37-12 in the first inning. What is the secret to their success, and can they keep it up?
It's hitting the ball. They hit the ball very well, especially at Miller Park. Obviously, their pitching isn't the best. They don't have the best starting pitching. Their bullpen's kind of hit and miss. Corey Knebel's been doing a great job this season. He's been one of the only bright spots in that bullpen.
Especially since Neftali Feliz has given up a lot as a closer. Now they moved him out of there and moved Knebel in.
Mm-hmm. And that's been to be a good move for now. But if you're scoring 11 runs each game, you're probably going to win. And that's what has been working. It's all up and down the lineup, too. That first game against the Red Sox, is bottom 6, 7, 8 hitters were a combined 9 for 12. And Keon Broxton just caught fire this week, too. So that's been a big part of their success, too. But just hitting the ball. That's what they're doing.
They're a young team. They're an upstart team that a lot of people haven't really been paying too much attention to. But now all of a sudden, ESPN's writing columns. They're having, MLB Network is having Milwaukee Brewer guests on the air, and they're talking about it. And this is something that they said, even with the article that was written, said you can't deny Milwaukee's offense now. I mean, Eric Thames was the big part.
And he's cooled off a little bit,
he's
too.
the big part of the year. Now all of a sudden, Travis Shaw, Keon Broxton, Manny Pena yesterday had the big 3-run homer to take the lead. What can you say? I mean, and Pena's not even your main catcher.
No.
And you have some of these guys that are coming off the bench that, like Jesus Aguilar, who Craig Counsell absolutely loves because he provides a lot of pop, and they, other teams can't get around him.
Yeah, I think it just shows that hitting is contagious. Once Eric Thames started to catch fire, he got some guys to start hitting the ball more, and then as the lineup started to progress through, everyone just started to hit a little bit more.
Greg saying that the Milwaukee Brewers are a World Series team. I don't know about that. We'll see what happens in the dog days of June and July.
You're heading in the right direction, but maybe not quite there yet.
Right, heading where David Stearns wants you to go with the GM of the Milwaukee Brewers saying a new hitting coach. Yeah, Darnell Coles has been a heck of a hitting coach, and he's so serious about his job that on the local broadcast here, the regional broadcast, they always try and catch him smiling, and they've only caught him smiling once, no matter what the circumstances are. I mean, he could be up 11-0, or he could be down 10-1. He's going to keep that same face. But man, it was exciting yesterday. I'm sure being at the ballpark yesterday, as you were, it was exciting for them.
There's a crowd getting into it, and I think baseball's starting to get back in Milwaukee.
Well, and I went to the store and I turned on the radio and I heard, they're down 7-1 in the 5th. Then all of a sudden I come home, I turn on the TV, I said I'll just check it. All of a sudden it's 9-8 and Pena's up and he blasts a 3-run homer and I'm like, wow, can't fall asleep on these guys at all. So that leads us to the final question of our stadium tour. Who's your most surprising team and who's your most disappointing?
Surprising Rockies, disappointing Mets.
Okay. I get that. Why the Rockies so much? I mean,
just didn't really expect them. Got a lot of young guys. Brewers are right there, too, most surprising. But the Rockies have been playing really good, competing against the NL West Dodgers. They just beat them a couple times over the weekend. But they're a bunch of guys just playing good baseball, really young guys. Their pitching staff, didn't know any of them before the season, and they're
still don't know half of them because they're so young.
Yeah, and they're still one of the best pitching staffs in the league.
Yeah, and for me, my surprise is Houston. I expected them to compete, but I didn't expect them to have the best record in baseball and just clobbering people. And we'll talk about them with Scott Wisniewski coming up here shortly. My most disappointing got to be the Cubs. And I'm happy when I say that because a lot of people had expectations. They thought they were just going to run away with the Central. They were going to go to the World Series and repeat. Now they're a game under 500, and they're in 4th place in the East or in the Central. So
I wouldn't panic too much.
I wouldn't either.
They're
but
3
I'd say
games out in 4th place, and they're 1 game under 500.
Are you a Cubs apologist?
No, I'm just...
Come on.
I just can see what's in front of me.
You work for the Brewers, man.
And I can see what the records are and what the Cubs did last year. I think it's just based on expectations. If the Cubs do this in 2009, everyone's like, wow, Cubs are having a decent year.
Yeah.
So it's...
And I
it's
guess
just
that's
all
why.
it's all context.
I guess that's why Baxter's saying, let's go Milwaukee Brewers. I would have them as part of a surprise team.
I mean,
but
I don't
not
want the
real.
Cubs to win. I'm just giving
Well, I would
facts.
hope not. I would hope that the team that signs your paycheck, you'd want them to win. Otherwise, I'm going to have to.
Going down there on Friday to root on the Brewers. So.
Okay. Well, otherwise, I was going to have to call Mark Antanasio and tell him. Anyway, we're going to move on. We want to talk some MLB with our Major League Baseball correspondent, Scott Wisniewski. He is a fill-in host on this show. Scott, we love having you. Thanks for joining us. And how are you today, day after Mother's Day?
I'm great. I am great. Can you guys hear me all right? This is my first
we're
time
good.
doing
Perfect.
this.
Yeah, we're good.
Good. I'm doing wonderfully, actually.
Good. Now, you could hear us, as you were off the air, you could hear us talking about surprises and disappointments. Now, there's lots of talk this weekend. Of course, I just mentioned the Cubs after they lose on Saturday about the slide rule. There was an incident where Ian Happ overslid second base. They called him out, and then they called out the guy at first base, which is what they're supposed to do according to the new rule. But Madden saying that he thinks it's making the game soft. Ian Happ also saying that it's not good for the game. A lot of other people weighing in on this too. Do you think the game is getting too soft?
Yeah, I think every game is getting too soft. I think football's getting softer. I think hockey's getting softer. But I think it's being done for a reason. I think, we've become smarter as a society, understanding about injuries and trying to protect yourself. I think some of the hard slides at second base and things of that nature, I think those should stay in the game, although I am in favor of the home plate collision rules and things of that nature. But I think on a base path, sure, I think that call, we saw it enforced last year a couple of times, and sometimes it just seemed ridiculous. But it's the way the game is going, and I think that you can whine about it if you're a current player, or you could just accept the fact that these are the rules you have to play under. I kind of used to like the old days where guys would break up a double play and slide a little late or kind of slide outside the bag but again, the times are a little bit different now.
Well, how much is it? How much is too much? We're making all these precautions to keep players safe, but how much really is too much?
As long as the salaries continue to go up and as long as teams don't want to lose those valuable assets, I think you're going to see it get a little bit more stringent over the next few years, depending on what major injury happens to a superstar of consequence. I mean, let's face it, the home plate rule changed because of Buster Posey. If that would have been Jet Bandy, I don't know if that rule changes. No offense to Jet Bandy, but you understand.
No, high-profile player.
Absolutely. So I think as long as we see superstars that get involved in some of these injuries, you're going to see rules get tweaked to try to protect them.
Are we ever going to get back to the way things used to be? Or are we just down that path and we're just going to keep heading down that path?
I mean, I think it might plateau, but I don't think we'll ever go back to the high contact base running that we've seen in the 70s and 80s and heck, a lot of the 90s as well.
All right, let's talk some records now, some actual baseball, not just sliding. Houston, they have the best record right now. Astros playing some good baseball down at Minute Maid. Are you surprised by this at all?
I'm surprised that they have the best record, but I kind of caught the part of your conversation where I thought Houston had a good squad, and I think I picked them to win the division, but I didn't think that at the quarter point of the season they were going to have the best record in baseball, and they've had everything kind of go right. You've had some bounce-back seasons from some of their players, including Dallas Keuchel and some of their other players. And this was a team, and I guess if you're a Brewer fan, you hope that it ends up like this, but this was a team that was built, with a good farm system, and they brought guys up, and they had a mix of some veterans and some young players, and they've really seemed to gel over the last 5 years, and this year could be their year, and we'll see. But, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I thought they could win 90 games right now. If they continued the pace they're on, it would be 100-plus wins. I don't think they're going to win 100, but they're kind of running away with that division early.
Now, before we start talking to you, we had a discussion about the Cubs and how they're under 500 right now. Only one game under 500. They're in fourth place in the NL Central, only 3 games back from first, however. Do you think they are the number one team that's under 500 that is most poised to make the playoff, or is there any other teams you could see?
There's some other teams, but the Cubs are by far the best equipped to overcome the slow start. They've had some injuries, and every team has injuries, but they've had some significant injuries to some of their players. They've had a little bit of drop-off in the pitching, which means to me they could be vulnerable as a team that's not maybe a World Series contender, but I still think they have enough pieces in place that they could, if they don't win this division, at least be a wild card. Because when you look around the league, the East doesn't really have anybody contending to be a wild card team. The West, you wonder if Colorado is going to eventually drop off. I think the Cubs are still a playoff team. I just don't know if they're built to win another World Series.
Well, and you take a look at, you said that you mentioned the pitching, and one thing that producer Dave here asked is Jake Arrieta ever going to get it back? And I said, I'm sure probably by middle of the season he might, but if he doesn't, what do they do?
Well, they still have pieces in the farm system that they could go out and acquire somebody near the trade deadline. So they still do have some of that at their disposal. One of the stats that's interesting about the Cubs, though, and it's a complete 180 from some of what made them successful last year, they lead the league in errors and unearned runs. And last year, they were one of the top 2 teams in fewest unearned runs allowed. So what you're doing, you're allowing those extra unearned runs, which means another extra 2-3 extra outs your starting pitchers have to get, which ends up being a cyclical effect, and it taxes your bullpen. So one of the keys to their success last year was their impeccable defense. Hasn't been the case this year.
Irma joining us on Facebook saying Atlanta Braves, last place. See, it doesn't matter if you have a fancy stadium or not. It doesn't make a difference. SunTrust Stadium opening up this year, and they're in last place, and I believe they have the worst record in baseball, or at least close to it.
Yeah, no, they do. As of yesterday.
They did.
Because the Blue Jays kind of figured a little bit more out.
Yeah, they got a few wins, and I'm proud for the Blue Jays and happy for the Blue Jays because I actually like that team. It's almost the quarter way of the season, Scott. We're nearing the 40-game mark here, and we know there's 162. So for you math majors, 162 divided by 40 is, 1 quarter. I'm still trying to figure that out in my head. So we decided we're going to give out our quarterly season awards. So we'll do this now. We'll do this halfway through the season, 3/4 of the way, and then obviously at the end of the season. So we want to get your take as to who you think these awards should go to. I'm going to have my own pick, and Ryan's going to have his pick as well. But first of all, start off in the American League. Who is your American League MVP?
I know that it's one of those things that seems taboo to think that somebody this young could be an MVP candidate. I think it's Aaron Judge. I mean, you look at what the Yankees have been able to do, being a team near the top of their division. They've been in and out of, first to half game out to game out. They've had some injuries of their own that they've had to overcome. And this kid's kind of, in some cases, putting that team on his back and has led them to that record. So if I had to pick right now, and I'm sure I would almost bet you that if I did this again at midseason, it would be a different pick. But right now, it's Aaron Judge.
Well, and he would be the first player since Ichiro to win that award. Him and Fred Lynn were the only two in Major League Baseball history to actually win. Do you agree with him, Ryan? Do you believe that it's going to be Aaron Judge?
I do not. I think it is taboo for him to win the MVP. And I think
it's one of those unwritten rules that Scott and I talked about a couple weeks ago.
Right? The baseball writers of America are some weird people. They like to be very traditional in the way that they vote.
Yeah. They're weird. Just look at their Hall of Fame voting. They're
exactly.
Weird.
Yeah.
We talked about that already.
So I'm not saying that Aaron Judge is any less deserving. I'm just saying this is how I think they're going to vote, and I think right now they would vote in favor of Mike Trout. And
I tend to agree with you. And it's not just who leads in home runs and who leads in RBIs, but I think there's a sort of a personal connection with the writers there too. I think that the writers see Mike Trout as the face of Major League Baseball, and he's having a good year, better than a lot of other people. So why not name him? I mean, even if you just take a look at the stats. I mean, he's batting .352. He's got 11 home runs.
Mm-hmm. He's leading the AL in WAR as well.
Yeah, exactly. At 2.1 something like
2.4.
2.4.
2.6. Sorry, wrong one.
Well, maybe
Judge
it's 2. It'll be 2.8 by tonight. But he's just one of those guys that MLB writers love. And you wonder if he's playing on the East Coast, how much more pub and how much more popular he would be, like an Aaron Judge. So I have to tend to agree with you.
I mean, he's still in L.A. He's
right.
in the NYC.
He's in L.A., but not a whole
Coast.
lot of people stay up and watch him, you know.
And understand this. I think that Mike Trout's probably going to be the MVP. I think Aaron Judge will end up cooling off a little bit, and there'll be more of a regression to the mean, and the league will figure him out a little bit. Whereas Mike Trout's likely to keep up that level. I'm just, at this point, if I had to have a vote, it would be Judge. But if I were betting on anybody, I think Trout's probably the favorite.
And if you want to weigh in on your quarterly season awards, please, by all means, feel free to comment below on Facebook and let us know who you think the award should go to. Let's move to the NL. Who's your NL MVP? I'm going to ask Ryan this first. Ryan, who do you think should deservedly win the NL MVP?
I'm going to say Ryan Zimmerman, because right now he is Triple Crown leader. So, I mean, that's just the easy answer.
Right. Scott, do you agree?
No, I don't. And I can understand why you would pick Zimmerman, because he's having a heck of a year. So is his teammate Bryce Harper. And though he has one more home run than Harper and a few more RBIs, that on-base percentage of Bryce Harper is phenomenal. I mean, it's just you're talking epic, legendary numbers right now when you talk about on-base percentage. I think if I were looking just now, I would say Bryce Harper. And if I was forecasting out for the year, partially because of Zimmerman's injury history and whatnot, I think Harper would be the favorite there as well. But even though Zimmerman is a Triple Crown leader and it makes sense that you'd think he'd be the guy, I just can't get over that phenomenal on-base percentage that Bryce Harper is carrying right now.
And I had a tough time, picking this one too. I went with Zimmerman just for the fact that he's Triple Crown, but I got to believe that at the end of the year it's going to be Bryce Harper. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a 2-time MVP, and I just don't see him losing that one. I think he's going to be consistent throughout the year. Cy Young Award in the American League. I have Dallas Keuchel. I believe that he's the one carrying the Houston Astros right now, and I think that he deservedly so should be in contention. He won the award back in 2015. I think he's up for it again this year, and I think he's going to stay consistent. Scott, what do you think? Do you agree with me or no?
I think he's right there. He was definitely one of the two guys I was looking at, but I went with Ervin Santana at this point. And again, if I were going to forecast how that's going to look at the end of the season, I expect Keuchel to hold up more than Ervin Santana will. But Santana right now with a whip of like .815 or something ridiculous like that, 1.50 ERA. He does have a loss, and Keuchel's undefeated. But I would go with Ervin Santana right now. Again, if I had to make a bet in Vegas, though, I'd probably lean towards Keuchel.
Yeah, I'm going to go Ervin Santana as well. Got the
Can't win with you guys.
Same amount of wins as Keuchel and a lower ERA. Okay. I think that just speaks for itself.
And I'm not yelling at you for this, but I mean, I'm asking, are you basing all of your stuff on stats, or do you put a little bit more into it when you make your pick, like
about
the writers?
90% of stats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense, and I do that too.
I'd probably go 70% on stats, but what I look at too with Santana is, his stats have been good. Keuchel's got a better supporting cast offensively around him than I think the Twins do, and I think the fact that Santana's been able to win 6 games with a team that's been a surprise, right. I think that's where I'm leaning to. Again, as this thing plays off, I expect Santana to go back to what he kind of always has been, which is a good pitcher but not a great pitcher. Right. But right now, he's been pretty great for the first quarter of the season.
Well, Ryan bases it 90%, Scott bases it 70%, I base it 80%, so, that's just the way it goes. NL Cy Young. Scott, who do you have as your NL Cy Young Award winner right now?
This one's pretty surprising, because if I would have told you at the beginning of the season that I was going to lean towards a Cardinal, you might have thought Martinez, you might have thought Lynn. I'm saying Mike Leake right now. Because there's been some uncertainty in that Cardinals starting rotation with Wainwright struggling and some other guys had missed a few starts here and there. And he's been the consistent pitcher, the most consistent pitcher on a team that leads his division right now. So, again, I don't expect it to hold up, but right now Mike Leake's my Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah, that 1.94 ERA speaks for itself.
Here's your 90% right
there. There you go.
Numbers. I went.
Numbers don't lie.
That's true. I went with Clayton Kershaw. I'm a big proponent of strikeouts. I love the strikeout, and it's even though in Bull Durham, Kevin Costner said, let him hit the ball. It's more democratic. It's, strikeouts are fascist, but his strikeout to walk ratio is just unbelievable. Even though his WAR isn't as good or his WHIP isn't as good as Mike Leake, even his ERA, I just think he's more consistent. When he takes the mound, he's dominant. And I like Clayton Kershaw. I think, right now, even though he is second in statistics, I think he gets the Cy Young.
Since you like strikeouts, the immaculate inning is rarer than a no-hitter. We had 2 in the past 2 weeks. Craig Kimbrell,
9 pitches.
9 pitches, 3 strikeouts an inning. Craig Kimbrell did it about a week and a half ago, and Scherzer did it over the weekend.
And we'll talk about Kimbrell in just a second. So, Scott and Ryan, AL Rookie of the Year. I think we can just move past that. Aaron Judge, we all agree. I think I know Scott does too.
100%.
National League Rookie of the Year. Ryan, who did you go with?
I like Cody Bellinger. I think he's going to be a nice young bat for the Dodgers for the time being. And there isn't like a clear-cut NL Rookie of the Year so far because
this one I based on stats. This one I based on stats, and I went with Bellinger as well. But I have a feeling Scott's going to go a totally different way. Scott, where'd you go?
Well, first of all, I just want to recall a time where the Dodgers every year had a Rookie of the Year from like the late 70s through the late 80s. It was an incredible farm system. And maybe Bellinger will continue in that path. But right now, if I had to pick, I'd pick Kyle Freeland, a guy who's pitching well in a hitter's ballpark in Colorado. It's rare for pitchers to win Rookie of the Year. I understand that. And again, I'm almost certain that maybe with the exception of Bryce Harper, all of my picks are probably going to be different at the midseason point. But right now on May 15th, I say it's Kyle Freeland.
Okay. So we move to the relief pitchers of the year, and we're in agreement with both of those. AL relief pitcher of the year, Craig Kimbrell, and National League, Greg Holland from the Colorado Rockies.
Greg Holland,
and it's not even close. It's not even close for
Holland's got
either.
Holland's got 5 more saves than the next nearest guy. So it's just amazing the year that he's having. Just for the sake of time, let's move on to AL and NL managers of the year so far. AL manager of the year, Ryan and I both agree it should be AJ Hinch from Houston because not only because they have the best record, but because they're playing the most consistent ball. You, on the other hand, Scott, who did you pick?
Well, I know that managers of the year, they usually don't give credit to good managers who had good teams, even though Hinch has his team playing better than many people thought. People thought Houston was a contender. Nobody thought Minnesota was a contender. So right now, Paul Molitor gets my vote just because that team is really bad, and they're in first place. So for me, that's the reason I went with Molitor. I don't want to take anything away from Hinch, but I just seem to know how these voters, they always seem to disregard managers on good teams, and Paul Molitor doesn't have a good team.
Our friend Armin saying Teddy Higuera for Cy Young, the old Brewer. National League Manager of the Year, who did you go with, Scott?
I went with Bud Black because, again, Colorado's a team that I thought was going to be a bottom feeder, 75 wins. Right now, they're getting something that you never thought you would get in Colorado, which is consistent, good pitching. Bud Black right now, I think has just a slight edge over Craig Counsell. To me, it was a toss-up, but I just leaned towards Black just because I really did not expect the pitching that they've gotten. And as far as the Brewers go, I'm a Brewer fan. I get that. They still make fundamental mistakes that make me scratch my head. So I dock Counsell a couple points for that.
You don't, though, do you, Ryan?
Not entirely. I know they have made some really bad mistakes, especially Jonathan VR
on the base
earlier in the
paths,
week.
yeah, absolutely.
Just trying to do too much there. But those things, I think you can iron those out a little bit better. And Craig Counsell is doing a lot with not too much.
Well, and the way I look at it is he's got to counteract for the lack of pitching that he's got, and he's plugging in the people in the lineup in the right holes in the right spaces, and he's doing everything he can to win, and those players are really responding. And the way the players respond, I really believe that that's the true sign of a good manager, is if you're responding despite your age, despite your discrepancies, I think the way you react and you you play for your manager, that shows how good your manager really is.
And
so
I've seen the
Craig
Brewers
Counsell
dugout a lot more than the Rockies dugout, but they look like they're having a whole lot of fun playing baseball.
Yeah, you look at the interview with Manny Pena. You got 3 buckets of Gatorade and some sunflower seeds dumped on him.
Those
yesterday.
are fun to pick up.
As we like to do when we wrap up our correspondence segment, Scott, we like to play Fast Five. So if you're all ready to go, we're going to give you 5 questions. You have 5 seconds to answer each question. Just the first thing that pops into your head. Are you all set to go?
I am ready to go.
All right. Number 1, you have 5 seconds. Favorite baseball movie?
Oh, my God, there's a lot of them. I'm going to go with my standby, Major League.
Major League, always a fan favorite. Number 2, favorite baseball manager of all time?
God, see, I'm so old. There's so many of them. Earl Weaver, because he was certifiably nuts, and he had some good teams in the late 70s and 80s.
I would have thought you would have went with Billy Martin, but Earl Weaver's a good one, too. Greatest baseball stadium in history?
Fenway Park.
Fenway Park, good one. I've been there. It's a fantastic stadium. Your most treasured piece of sports memorabilia?
Well, this one hurts because I had a house fire a few years ago and I lost some stuff I could never get back. But one of the things I was able to keep, I have a model replica of Old County Stadium and a picture of me as a kid with Cecil Cooper, who was by far my favorite Brewer of all time. I still have those intact, so I'd say a tie between those two.
That's a cool story because I actually caught a ball from Cecil Cooper that he hit in an Old Timers game and then had it autographed by him, so that's one of my favorites as well. Your final question: you have tickets to only one of these. All right, Super Bowl, Game 7 of the World Series, college football, or basketball national championship. Which one do you pick?
Game 7, without a doubt. I mean, I love the NFL. Don't get me wrong, but that's my thing, man. And if I had Game 7 tickets, I'm taking them all the time.
I should have just put Game 7 at the NBA, not the World Series, and see what he would have said. Yeah. Scott, good stuff as always. We thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having you possibly fill in for either myself or Ryan in the near future, but always great stuff as always. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, always great talking to you guys. Have a good night.
All right. Yeah. Scott Wisniewski, our MLB correspondent, joining us, and just good stuff. He's always brings the heat and has some fun with us. So
yeah, real quick on the Game 7 thing, I think we have a viewer right now who actually has been to a Game 7 of the World Series. My dad went to Game 7 of 2001 World Series.
Yankees and Mets. No.
D-backs.
Yankees and D-backs. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, I was thinking 2000 Yankees Mets. Paul saying that Bud Black or Torey Lovello are
Lovello's good.
Good candidates for National League Manager.
He's almost there, but not quite.
Tim saying the I-90-94 series between the Twins and the Brewers. He would
just like everyone predicted.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Now it's time as we're heading down to the wire here, trying to wrap things up. We are going to play Fair or Foul. As always, we have our little game that we like to play. We give each other 3 things, and we determine whether or not they are right or not, whether or not we agree with them, and we declare them fair or foul. So you got to go first last week, so I'm going to give yours this week. And we've been talking about it all show, and the Cubs are at, or actually one game below 500. They will finish with 90-plus wins this season. Fair or foul?
Foul. They'll be in the 80s, high 80s.
High 80s.
And still
close.
Yeah. So they'll be close. But yeah, I still think they'll make the playoffs.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
For you, Carlos Beltran is a Hall of Famer.
Man, I would have to say...
Starting off easy, huh?
Now, is this eventually, or is this like first ballot?
No, eventually.
I think eventually Carlos Beltran does get in. I think that's fair.
I think we can agree he's not a first ballot.
No. I think he's going to be one of those kind of Craig Biggio type deals where he sits there for, or maybe like an Andre Dawson where he sits there for 5, 6, 7, 8 years and then all of a sudden he gets put in. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but he is definitely worthy. He's played on some good teams and he's got some really, really good stats. So I think that's definitely fair. Of the big 4 sports, baseball currently rests in a solid second place.
In terms of popularity?
In terms of popularity between NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Unfortunately, not in my personal opinion, I'm going to say foul behind the NBA and the NFL.
Okay.
I don't like that, but that's just how it is right now. That's just how the popularity is.
I don't think the popularity of the NBA is really right there.
It's going down.
It's too predictable. I mean,
It is predictable.
If you looked at it, I was looking at some posts some articles that were written about the popularity of sports, and the most Googled things as far as sports go, and NBA was third behind behind Major League Baseball and the NFL, which is why I asked. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Didn't know that.
yeah.
The Nationals have legit bullpen concerns. People say there's could be about 7 games they've kind of blown because of their bullpen.
I think right now they do. I think by the trade deadline they won't. I think they're going to go out and they are going to get some help. And yeah, we're both laughing because we both saw what Baxter wrote that Tim Tebow is Googled the most. And I know Jessica Kleinschmidt is loving that one too. But I do believe that they will get some help by the All-Star break, and I think that, by the trade deadline, and I do think that some of these relievers will find their way. I don't think it's going to be a lost cause. Not to mention the fact they're already 7.5 games up. They really don't have to worry about blowing 1 or 2 games.
That's what I was going to say. Tiffany Lint just on Facebook here said Nats are in trouble, but how much trouble can you really be in?
When you're 11 games over 500 and the next closest is 4 games under, I don't know. Tiffany,
I just don't see. I think
Tiffany, we'd like to hear your comments.
Blew a major tire throughout the. I still think they win that division just because of who's in that division.
I think if Ryan Zimmerman goes out for the year, I think they still win.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Now Bryce Harper, you never know, but I still think they lose one of their top guys. I think they still have a shot, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see how that finishes out. The third and final question for you, and we talked about this. Derek Jeter is the best shortstop to ever play the game.
Nope, foul. That is. That's a swing and a miss.
Okay,
that's not even foul.
So you say foul. Who is the best shortstop to ever play the game?
It's not Derek Jeter. I can tell you that.
Oh, way to get out of that one.
I don't know. I mean, A-Rod as a shortstop was very good.
Are you kidding? Come on.
As a shortstop, he was good.
Offensively, maybe. Defensively, not even close.
Not defensively, but I mean, Derek Jeter offensively wasn't the best either. If you look at his career statistics, right place at the right time. I'm telling you, that's all Derek Jeter was.
Ozzie Smith. I like Ozzie Smith. Yeah. I'm a big Ozzie Smith fan, but Phil Rizzuto is also in there too. So, who knows?
Yeah, just Derek Jeter overrated.
Okay,
I had to get one more in there. Last one for you. Baseball is back in Milwaukee. Excitement, everything. People start talking about it a little bit more.
Man, when you're coming off of the season that the Bucks had and the resurgence of the basketball here in Milwaukee, you temper that with the Packers up I-43, and now all of a sudden the Brewers are playing so well. I think just sports is back in Milwaukee. I think it's just a rebirth of some really good sports coming to Milwaukee.
Admirals made the playoffs too.
Admirals made the playoffs too. Their NHL affiliate, the Predators, are in the conference finals. I mean, it's just and we have the Milwaukee Wave, who are consistent winners. They always win the MISL, the Major Indoor Soccer League title, year after year. At least they did when Keith Poser was the coach, but they're still very competitive. But I think for major league sports, I think baseball is back. I think major league sports is back. Taking a look at some of our comments on Facebook, Tiffany saying LOL, foul. Tim saying my dad was at Game 7 of the '68 World Series in St. Louis. That's awesome. And Tiffany saying that Derek Jeter does not have the numbers, and yeah, he doesn't. I agree with that. But I have one more for you.
Okay.
Since you're the baseball aficionado and you're one of these guys that loves baseball, we talked about the Yankees retiring every single single-digit number.
Correct.
Except for number 0, which is technically not a digit, but it could be if you're a zero theorist. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician.
It's not an integer.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I was trying to look for the mathematical term. But I want to know, if you can, in order, name me the single-digit retired numbers. Or at least give me a few.
Yogi Berra, Lou Gehrig.
But you got to give me the number.
8.
For Yogi Berra.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gehrig was 3. No, 4. Babe Ruth was 3.
Very good.
Jeter was 2. Mm-hmm. Can't think of 1.
Crotchety old manager we talked about before.
You did say it. Billy Martin.
Exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
You mentioned Lou Gehrig. He was number 4. Okay.
Yeah, because I remember back, because how I think of it is the batting order, because that's how the Yankees first had their number. They're the first team to have their numbers, so that's why a lot of these guys are all single-digit numbers.
What about number 5? You can't.
Mickey Mantle.
No, that's number 7.
7.
Number 5. Come on.
Not off the top of my
Splitter.
head.
Is that his name?
I don't know. It's not
No,
helping.
no, it's not the
helping.
Splendid Splitter. It's the Yankee Clipper.
Not helping.
He was sung about in Mrs. Robinson by Simon and Garfunkel.
Still not.
Where Have You Gone, Joe DiMaggio?
Joe DiMaggio.
Yes, Joe DiMaggio. Number 6 is
not the biggest Yankee. If I was a Yankee fan, I could probably do that.
One of the biggest managers, or one of the best managers in the Yankee history. Number 6,
Joe Torre.
Joe Torre, obviously. Oh, now you brought it up, Baxter. That's no fair. Bill Dickey also getting number 8 retired, so that's interesting that they have number 8 retired.
I can tell you all the retired numbers for the D-backs.
They have 2.
3, counting Jackie Robinson, Luis Gonzalez, and
Luis Gonzalez and Randy Johnson.
Yeah,
Kurt Schilling probably will be soon too. I'm sure.
I don't know.
No,
based on his what he's been doing lately,
his exploits off field
issues after he retires.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us for another week of Inside the Park. Man, this hour just flies by, and we're not even on for an hour. I mean, we're on for a little bit less than an hour. We went a little over our time slot today, and we apologize for that. But we hope we brought you a lot of good information, a lot of fun stuff.
We tried our best. We showed up today. That's what we did.
And as they say in the movie Hardball, the best thing is showing up. Thank you, Keanu. But it's been fun. We enjoy this every week. We wish we could do it more. We hopefully might during the dog days of summer do it a little more as our schedules don't conflict so much with the scheduling here. Yeah, as they open up a little bit more. But we always have a great time, and we do appreciate the work behind the scenes with our producer engineers David and Baxter coming in and doing all the stuff. I know I don't make it easy on them. I give them a lot of video clips that I want them to show, and they get them all on the air even more than I give them. So I'd just like to say thanks for them. Tim saying great show, guys. Thanks, Tim. We appreciate all of you, Dad. All the comments, all the viewership, all the listening. We welcome anything that you guys, any feedback that you guys have to say. Please, by all means, be sure to check out BruceSportsNet.com to check out all our archive show, check out some of the other hosts and some of the other shows as well. Make sure you tune into Bruce Sports on Facebook Live. Every day you have Morning Brew and Happy Hour, halftime. See,
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row.
At the beginning, it was a Freudian slip, and here it's a Freudian slip too. But tomorrow we're going to have Pick 6 and Double Dribble. Always going to be on Tuesdays, and just a lot of sports going on, and we love to have you join us every single day. Of course, we're always going to be on every Monday from 5 to 6, so we enjoy having you tune in tonight, and we look forward to having you tune in next week. So for David and for Baxter, and of course, my esteemed co-host Ryan Thies, I'm Barry Nelson saying so long for now. We will see you next week inside the park.